As the fallout from the Banking Royal Commission continues to mount, the major lenders are facing a new threat from a potentially disruptive smaller player. Judo Capital has just won a banking licence from the prudential regulator APRA to challenge the traditional Big Four for a slice of the small to medium business sector. The licence for the now Judo Bank has been approved against a background of falling trust in big banks and tighter lending standards as a result of misconduct uncovered during the inquiry. The former National Australia Bank executive, Joseph Healy, is Judo's co-founder, and he's speaking here with senior business correspondent Peter Ryan.
We want to restore the way that banking used to be done, the way that we believe banking should be done, and that is using cutting-edge technology to enable a human relationship and human engagement with customers, bankers who will seek to first understand what they're seeking to do and then seek to solve their financing and their risk management needs.
You and your backers have jumped on the trust deficit engulfing the big four banks at the moment, but what will Judo do differently to avoid the ethical and cultural issues that emerge from the Royal Commission?
The whole reason why we were motivated to establish Judo was to fill the void that the banking industry has allowed to be created. And part of that void has been a deficit of trust. Another part of it has been the fact that the banking industry has become industrialised, dehumanised, if you will. And Judo seeks to go back and establish the way that banking used to be done. And trust is at the centre of banking. I mean, the whole basis of banking going back centuries was based on trust. When people lend money to other people, it's based on a belief that you can trust them to pay you back. Unfortunately, of course, the industry, both in Australia and around the world, has allowed that trust deficit to be established, and therefore the opportunity for a fresh start.
As you say, trust is a much used word, especially when it comes to banks, and as a former National Australia Bank executive, you would have heard it all. So how are you going to live up to these promises given the pressure to compete with the major players?
Judo Bank will only focus on small to mid-sized businesses. We won't be in the consumer market or in the large corporate market. So I think what small businesses will find when they're dealing with Judo is that they're dealing with a specialist that is passionate about the importance of providing special banking requirements to small to mid-sized businesses. And we're defining small to mid-sized businesses as businesses with a turnover of up to $50 million a year.
But how will Judo Bank win this new business? For example, what won't you be doing? Will you or your senior staff or brokers receive commissions or bonuses for ramping up sales? Of course, that was a big issue during the Royal Commission.
Well, you'll never ever hear anybody inside Judo Bank talk about sales. So selling is not part of our vocabulary. There are no incentive-based, commission-based incentives within Judo. We're going back to traditional old-fashioned banking values based on cutting-edge technology.
The banking regulator, APRA, doesn't hand out bank licences willy-nilly, especially in the current regulatory environment. So how difficult was it to win a full licence to be an authorised deposit-taking institution, given APRA's well-known rigorous approach?
Well, it was an extensive process, and my colleagues feel as if we've been through an extensive internal and external examination over the course of well over a year. We welcome that because there's a great privilege and responsibility with being a bank in Australia, and we have to take that responsibility very seriously.
Given that Judo is a start-up bank, does that mean that you're a fintech? Will you have bricks and mortar branches, or will everything be digital and online?
Well, we're emphatically not a fintech. I mean, we do have cutting-edge technology, but the technology is there to enable the relationship proposition, not to define it. But there'll be a human being at the end of the phone or a human being sitting across the desk, and when our customers want to deal with Judo, they won't be dealing with a call centre, they'll be dealing with people. Technology cannot do that.
Given what we heard out of the Royal Commission about the ethical, legal and cultural issues and potential referrals of criminal breaches to Commonwealth prosecutors, how far do the big banks have to go to restore trust with the public?
Well, I think the big banks are on a long journey to re-establish some semblance of trust. I mean, trust arrives on the back of a tortoise and leaves on the back of a galloping horse. It's not something that you can flick a switch and re-establish. But the economy and society requires that we have a strong and socially responsible banking system. Banks have a huge privilege in our economy, and they have to acknowledge and be responsible to those obligations that go and responsibilities that go with those privileges.
And that's Judo Bank co-founder Joseph Healy speaking there with senior business correspondent Peter Ryan.